What's up, everybody? My name is Wyatt Scott. We're out here today with Risky Throttle Media, and we're going to go ahead and talk about the difference between a traditional shock and a BFRC shock that's found on the Suzuki. So with our traditional shock, I just have a little bit older one here off of like an older Honda. Traditional style shock, basically we have the shaft assembly and the body. And with the shaft, we have our gold valve piston. And essentially as this shock goes to compress, oil flows through the ports, through our compression stack, backfills to the side of the shaft there, creates compression, and then on rebound it comes down, oil flows through the ports and through our rebound stack. As the shock goes in, or the shaft goes into the body, it's going to displace some oil, and it's going to push oil through our compression adjuster stack up here. And as that goes through that stack, it's going to create a little bit of compression damping up there, and that's where the term pressure balance comes from, is we have to make sure that our compression adjuster creates as much or more damping force than our main piston, or else the shock would cavitate. So pretty standard shock. This has been on shocks since probably been on dirt bikes in the style we've been using since kind of the late 80s probably, in some form or fashion. Shaft sizes, body size, all that stuff's changed, but as far as the theory behind it, it's been pretty much the same for quite a few years, and this is what's found on pretty much everything right now as far as KTMs, Huskies, this style of shock, WP, KYB, Showa, they're all doing kind of the same thing. So when we move into the shock that we're talking about today, the BFRC, this is coming on the Suzuki since 2018, I believe, and this is the BFRC, which stands for Balance Free Rear Cushion. And essentially, it's just another way of doing a shock and creating damping, but it's different from traditionally what we've seen. So on this shock, we actually have kind of a twin tube design. So we have a body inside a body. So this actually nestles inside the tube here, finds its home, and then there's a gap in between the body here and this tube itself. So on the shaft, we'll see a little bit different. This actually has a solid piston on it. No valving or anything done on the shaft itself. So the way this shock actually functions is it goes on like this. This piece actually presses onto the seal head. Then when this is assembled, as the shock compresses, this whole thing would be filled with oil as well as inside the tube there. It takes and shoves all that volume of oil through our adjuster assembly at the top of the shock. So this is where all of our valving is done. There's no other valving in the shock, just on the actual adjuster itself. So as the shock compresses, it takes that volume of oil, shoves it up through our adjuster, going through our compression stack, and then going through our check valve, to which then it goes ahead, follows some passages, and actually fills the area in between this body and the tube itself. As it fills this area, it also backfills behind the solid piston. So with the shock fully compressed, as we start to rebound, it's going to come back like this. It's going to be shoving the oil through these holes, up along the side of the body, back and through our our adjuster assembly again, which now the oil is going to flow through the port, through our rebound valving itself, and then check and fill back into the tube. So essentially, where the standard shock is kind of pushing oil through the main piston, and then the only oil that goes through the adjuster is what's displaced by the shaft. In this instance, the whole volume is getting shoved back and forth through our assembly itself, and that's where all our damping is coming. So once again, completely different way of doing it. At the end of the day, it's just shims and oil. So as long as we can create a good damping curve with this shock, we should be able to rival exactly, very similar feel to what that shock's doing. Yeah, works pretty well. So with our gold valve assembly, when the shock came out, development, it kind of got some bad feedback, and it still kind of has a bad rap. Some of the big differences we made, where we went ahead and we opened up the ports on the valve. So on the right, the gray valve is the stock valve. On the left is our gold valve, so you can see the ports, they're flowing a little bit more oil. So in our typical fashion, we like to get the ports out of the way. We want no restrictions on the valve so that we can do whatever we want to do with the valve stack. So opening those up, we make sure there's no restriction on the valve or something that's going to limit us to what we'd like to accomplish. The other thing that we actually found when we were doing the shock was the check plates. Like I said, on compression, the oil is going to come in through this port, through our compression valving itself. It's going to flow through this port as well, and then through this check valve. So anytime we have a check or a check plate like that, the main goal is for it to get out of the way and for let the oil flow freely. So what we found was we thought that the amount of lift that the check plate had was actually a little bit restricting. So we went ahead and made a little bit longer collar to add a little bit more lift to that check plate to make sure once again we have no restriction on flow there. And essentially that's been our gold valve kit since 2018. We've done some development on the settings, and like always, they always kind of develop with the time and stuff. But as far as functioning, we've had some really good results with this shock, and yeah, I don't see any reason why she can't work and be a great shock for anybody who buys an RMZ.